Afternoon, everyone. It is Tuesday, right? It's Tuesday, July 30th. That happens to be my 40th birthday today. So happy birthday, everyone. The baby's sleeping upstairs, so we might have a few minutes to do a video. This is going to be a longer, more extensive video about reviewing today's baseball games and the picks. And then we're going to go into fantasy lineup creation and generation because I have written a brand new Excel file for using for fantasy sports for DraftKings and for FanDuel. And it's really amazing, and it allows you to create a mixture of lineups in here and then enter them all in when teams announce lineups, and everyone needs to get their lineups in if you want to enter 100 or 150 entries into a fantasy tournament to try to sweep it and win big. Picking all your players and stuff and putting them in here, I'll show you how we can do that, especially by looking at today's baseball file, because we can talk about which players we would choose. So today, we have a pretty full slate. It's only picking 7 games, which is, I think, astonishing given that we have 15 on the slate today. So it's really being picky. And there's only 2 games above bet score 3. That's Minnesota over the Marlins. Marlins really just ran over Arizona last night. File had a terrible day yesterday. We were 1-4 with the algorithm. So did Vegas. Vegas also lost 3 of those 4 games. So it's just a rough day all around. But Angels lost to Detroit. Detroit has a couple new people in the lineup. I wonder if that's having an impact. I don't expect the Angels to blow this again. We're projecting 9 runs for them. Dodgers over Colorado. Mets over the White Sox. Washington's been playing better ball against Atlanta. Houston and Cleveland, that's going to be a good game, but Verlander's going. And then Boston over Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay plays Boston really tough, though. When you look at the matchups and you kind of break down why these things are, why it's doing this, basically, you've got a really strong lineup factor for Minnesota. That's 4.1. It means that they generally are going to put up 4 runs or more a game. In this scenario, it's predicting them to put up 5 against Zach Gallen, who's 1 of 2. They have Oda Rizzi going for Minnesota, so I can see why that's a strong pick. And the line's only minus 145, so it's not too bad. The Angels line's really rough at minus 260, so you kind of have to take that minus 1.5 or minus 2.5. Drew Vertigan has an ERA of 14, which is why it's predicting 9 runs for the Angels today. So there's some information here. Right now, a lot inside this file, we have more than just data about the games. We have player data, and I have this thing called the batting pivot sheet in this file. And what the batting pivot sheet is, what you're looking at here, and these colors and everything, is you're looking at all the different teams and the order at which the players bat in their lineup for today. So, for example, if we wanted to, say we wanted to load up on the Angels players today, if we're doing some fantasy, because we think that they're going to hit that pitcher that's got an ERA of 14. If we click on the Angels here, and we see this is the Angels' current lineup if it's updated. I think it is. Who's batting first for them? It's David Fletcher. And not only what order are they batting, but what is this color? What is this number thing over here? And what it is it's my own way of cumulatively, I call it a C-score, for contribution score, meaning how many hits, walks, home runs, RBIs, things that we care about in a ratio, in a prorated form. What is that number? And the higher the number, the better. So like Mike Trout has a really high number. He's a great player. Hits a lot of home runs. He's on base. He's a hustler. So you start to see the different amount, like Ohtani, right? Ohtani used to be a pitcher. I don't know if he's pitching anymore, but he's at a .47, better than Upton, a little bit better than Simmons, but like not better than Pujols. So when you're putting together a fantasy lineup, a lot of times what you can do is you can open up the entire roster of everybody and then go by player. And what you end up seeing is your top ranked players and where they reside, right? Like so, like we can move team out of this for a second to make it a little easier to look at. And what you see here is you see that Yelich is the man. Yelich has been putting up amazing home runs. He's got a high score. Bellinger for LA has been phenomenal. Encarnacion, Trout, Bogarts, Devers, Freeman, all these people, and then you can kind of go through, choose a team, pick the guys that you want from that team. Do we want anybody from Atlanta? If we did, we want Freeman and Acuna and maybe Ozzie Albies, who didn't do anything last night because I had him last night. So bringing in all these players and stuff, what am I talking about in the fantasy thing that I built? Well, let's grab some pictures, right? So for today, show you how this works. Let's assume that we want Verlander, right? He's going to be expensive. So let's grab his name and we're going to throw him up here as one of our, I give you 6 pitchers to choose from. Like when you're combining and creating a bunch of rosters for fantasy, you have to choose certain positions. So you get 6 pitchers, right? So say we want Verlander, we would also like who's pitching for the Dodgers, right? Urias, Jose Urias. Bring him in there, and I'll just grab a couple other pitchers because, right? Like grab Charlie Morton, right? Mike Leake. Let's grab those guys, right? So we're going to grab 4 different pitchers here. Put them in here. It's going to show you how many points per game they usually get and other information that we're going to be estimating in order to sort out all our lineups. So we got some pitchers in there. Now we could go back and we could say, all right, I care about catchers, right? So we can open up a slicer for position here. If we open up a slicer and we want position, all of a sudden we can now start to choose our different positions that we want to use. And we care about catchers. So which 3 catchers am I interested in taking today? Do I want to look at this by team, right? Because maybe I wanted a catcher on the Angels. Like, who's the catcher on the Angels? Well, it's 0.28. Kevon Smith doesn't have great numbers, so he might be kind of a sleeper if they have a big game against that awful pitcher. But you want these guys. Like, these are the top guys that you want. So if we take them and we put them back in here, if we're just going by really powerful players, actually these 2 are not pitchers. So I'm going to move them into the catcher spot here in a second because I just put them in the pitcher spot. But move them down here. You start to fill out this roster, and you can take all these names that are going to end up coming out here, and you're going to be able to sort when you go back and refresh this thing over here. This is the big table where everybody's roster gets combined together. There's a lot of complex formulas in here. This is 122,000 rows of combinations of data. And then there's a heat map over here, which shows you how many of each guy you have in the roster. And we haven't done a complete one yet, but I just wanted to refresh and kind of show you what this looks like. It's a very powerful file. It's like a 41 megabyte file. It's enormous, and it's going to be available for you to get picks on draftmatician.com in the near future. But what it does here, this heat map, is it kind of shows you, says, all right, we're putting Verlander in our lineups here. We're putting, how many times are we putting Mike Leake in and Charlie Morton, and it's telling you by color. There's a lot of these errors here. That's why it doesn't look very good, because I need to really fill in the rest of the names that you would potentially use for all these other positions. But in general, what it kicks out is a 1 and a 2 and a 3, and it keeps adding if you have the guy in the lineup. So at the end of the day, when we get everyone in here, you have a nice colored distribution of, if you want to grab 100 lineups, how frequently you're inserting different guys in your lineups. And you can play load up on certain teams. You can fill this thing out with just a few guys on a few teams if you're focusing on specific games, and then you can run a separate one with separate games and enter it in separate contests. So this thing really helps out so that you're not running at the last minute and trying to create a bunch of entries that are evenly distributed. So it's really cool stuff, and I just felt like sharing with everyone on my birthday here while the baby is sleeping. And today I would say, all right, 40th birthday, so can I give you 4 solid picks today? Minnesota over Miami sounds good, so I'll go with that. Angels lost a tough one to Detroit, but Detroit's a really bad team, so I think the Angels are also a good pick. In Colorado, weird things happen, so I'm actually going to stay away from the Dodgers at minus 150. Mets have been playing better. They've got Syndergaard going. The White Sox are really one of the lower tier teams, so the Mets are a good pick. And Washington has been playing better than Atlanta recently, so I think Washington is also a good one. This is dangerous. Cleveland can hit. Verlander will have a loss rarely, but once in a while. And Tampa Bay plays Boston tough. So I would say Washington, the Yankees, the Angels, and Minnesota, but never listen to me. Always listen to the algorithm. And we're out.